The slaver's ship docked at outpost 17B just past midnight. Most inhabitants of the dusty trading moon were asleep or too drunk to notice the arrival. But not Commander Jace Vela. He stood silently under the flickering station lights, arms crossed, his jaw tight as the ramp hissed open. The Zyran merchant, Oro Trask, waddled down the ramp first, his 4 eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Commander Vela," Trask said, voice oily. "You asked for labor. Cheap and efficient. I brought the best. Bio-certified. Tampered only slightly." Jace's gaze moved past Trask. A line of humanoids shuffled behind him, bound by thin magnetic cuffs. Most looked broken, heads lowered, shoulders hunched. Then one caught his eye. She was tall, silver-skinned with faint lavender markings along her neck. Her long white hair was braided down her back. She wasn't cowering. She stood straight, gaze steady, eyes glowing faintly blue. "A Mary," Jace said quietly. "Indeed." Trask beamed. "Rare these days. This one," he glanced at the datapad on his wrist, designation Vela, taken from the ruins of Azka Prime. Obedient, fluent in standard, psionically muted. She won't resist. Jace looked at her again. She didn't flinch under his scrutiny. There was no trace of fear, only waiting. He turned sharply. "Send them to the processing bay. Accept her." Trask blinked. "You want the Mary separately?" Jace stared at him. "No. I want her unshackled and taken to quarters. She's not a slave here." Chapter 2. Not what she expected. Vela sat silently on the edge of a narrow cot, her hands folded in her lap. The room was small, sparse, but not unkind. There were no chains, no guards. Just quiet. The door hissed open. Jace stepped inside, holding a folded blanket and a meal tray. "You'll find outpost 17B lacking in luxuries," he said, setting the tray down. "But it's safe. You're free here." She tilted her head. "I was purchased, was I not?" "I didn't pay for you," he said, meeting her gaze. "And even if I had, I don't believe in owning people." She watched him a moment longer before finally speaking. "Why spare me?" Jace exhaled. "Because I saw too many eyes like yours in the war. Proud. Lost. Still fighting, even after surrender." He paused. "No one saved them." Vela looked down at the tray. "If I am free, may I choose to serve?" He frowned. "You don't owe me anything." Her eyes lifted to his again. "Among my people, service is how we honor those who show mercy." Jace's jaw tightened, but he nodded once. "Then choose how you serve. But not because you're expected to." Chapter 3. The routine. Weeks passed. Vela worked quietly alongside the outpost crew, cataloging supplies, repairing drones, sometimes patrolling the perimeter with Jace. She never asked for privileges, nor did she isolate herself. But the crew, once skeptical, began to trust her. They saw how precise her work was, how she'd warn them before a system overloaded, or guide a technician away from a dangerous tool's spark. Jace observed her silently. She rarely smiled, but when she did, it was fleeting and pure, like sunlight through broken clouds. One evening, after a long patrol under the moons, Vela walked beside him. "I've been watching," she said. "You don't sleep well." He gave a dry chuckle. "You're not wrong." "Nightmares." "Memories," he replied, eyes scanning the horizon. "Faces I couldn't save. Orders I followed that I wish I hadn't." They stood in silence, wind rustling the dusty ground. "I've seen war," she said finally. "And I've seen mercy. What you did for me, it is not forgotten." He looked at her. The dying light caught her features, strong, beautiful, alien and yet achingly human in that moment. "You don't have to repay me, Vela." "I know," she whispered. "That's why I want to." Chapter 4. The offer. That night, Vela came to his quarters. She didn't knock. She simply entered, as silent as always. Jace sat at his desk, going over supply reports. He looked up, surprised. "Something wrong?" She shook her head. Then stepped closer. "I've made my choice," she said softly. He stood slowly. Vela. She unfastened the clasp at her neck, letting her outer robe slide to the floor. Beneath it, her skin shimmered faintly in the low light, her form graceful and strong. Jace looked away instantly. "Don't," he said, voice low. "Don't do this because you think you should." She moved closer, voice steady. "Not because I should. Because I want to." He turned back to her, struggling to find the right words. "You don't have to prove anything to me. This isn't proof. This is a gift." Her hand reached out, brushed his chest gently. "I am no longer bound by force. I choose to share this part of me, freely and fully, with the one who gave me back my name." There was a long silence. Then slowly, he raised his hand to her cheek, resting it there. "I won't take you," he whispered. "But if you'll stay, then we'll walk this path together." Chapter 5. Broken Sky. The peace of the outpost didn't last. Weeks later, an encrypted signal pierced the communication grid. A raider clan, Krek Syndicate, was planning to sack the settlement. Word was they had a bounty on Vela, and any merry survivor. Jace called the crew to arms. "You don't have to fight," he told Vela in private. She looked at him coldly. "If they come for me, they'll bleed for it." She took up a pulse bow, her posture shifting back into that of a warrior. Beside her, Jace readied his rifle. When the attack came, it was swift and brutal. The sky lit with fire, and Outpost 17B became a battlefield. Jace fought with grim precision. Vela, however, she moved like a storm. Her arrows hummed with plasma and struck with deadly grace. Raiders fell before she even appeared in their scope. At the height of the battle, Jace was cornered, his ammo spent, a brute bearing down on him. Then came the whisper thrum of Vela's bow. The brute collapsed, an arrow through his visor. Jace looked up. She stood behind him, panting, blood across her shoulder. "You saved me," he said, stunned. She smiled, truly smiled, for the first time. "Now we're even." Chapter 6. Aftermath. The raiders were defeated. Many were captured, others fled. Outpost 17B was damaged, but intact. Repairs began the next day. Among the rubble, life stirred again. Vela stood at the edge of the landing pad, watching the sunrise with arms crossed. Jace joined her quietly. "We're rebuilding again," he said. She nodded. "It's what we do." He hesitated. "Will you stay?" Vela turned to him. "You freed me. You never took what was offered unless I gave it with my heart." He smiled faintly. "And now?" She reached up, touching his face gently. "Now, my heart is yours." Epilogue. Together. Time passed. The outpost grew. Traders came, settlers followed. And at the center of it all were Jace and Vela, partners, equals, guardians. They never needed contracts, or titles, or declarations. What they had was forged in trust, tested in fire, and sealed with love freely given. And in that strange corner of the galaxy, once ruled by war and silence, something new bloomed. Hope.